Let's talk about a will. It's got to be one of the single most important documents you'll ever create. But let's be honest, it's usually surrounded by all this confusing legal jargon. Well, today, we're going to clear all that away. We're turning that complicated document into a simple, easy to understand roadmap. So let's get started. And this quote, man, it just nails it. A will isn't some scary legal trap to be afraid of. Just think of it as your own personal roadmap, drawn up by you, showing exactly how everything you've worked for, your entire legacy, should be passed on. It's your voice, making your plan for the future.
All right, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll get the basics of this whole roadmap idea. Then, we'll talk about how to draw the map the right way. We'll also look at some common roadblocks, learn how to read those special if-then directions you can add, and finally, we'll see what happens if there's no map at all.
So first stop, drawing the map correctly. Look, to make sure your map is legit and actually gets your estate to the right destination, you've got to follow a few basic rules of the road. And these aren't just random rules. They're there to protect what you want.
Okay, this is super important to get your head around. The difference between an heir and a legatee. So a legatee is someone you give a specific thing to, my car or 50,000 rand. An heir, on the other hand, gets the residue. That's just a fancy word for everything that's left over after all those specific gifts are handed out and the debts are paid. One gets a specific slice, the other gets the rest of the pie.
All right, so who can actually be part of this whole process? Well, to make a will, you need to be at least 16, and you have to understand what you're doing. The law calls it being of sound mind. Your witnesses, they just need to be 14 or older. But here's the big one, the rule you absolutely cannot forget. The person who witnesses you sign the will usually can't inherit anything from it. It's a really critical safeguard to make sure no one's pressuring you. Now, even the best laid plans can hit a snag, right? So let's talk about the roadblocks, the common mistakes that can make your entire map totally useless. So let's ask the scary question. What could make your will dead on arrival? I mean, what are the huge mistakes that could lead a court to just toss it out like it never even existed?
And boom, here they are, the 3 big no-nos. Your will has to be your choice, freely made. So if you accidentally sign the wrong piece of paper, that's a mistake. If someone tricked you into signing, that's fraud. Or even worse, if someone threatened you or forced you, that's called duress. Then the will isn't really your choice, and it can be thrown out.
But hey, life happens, right? What if you change your mind? Well, you can hit the delete button. That's called revocation. The simplest way is just to make a new will and have it clearly say that it cancels out all the old ones. But what if you regret deleting it? You can't just tape it back together. To hit undo or revive it, you have to go through the whole formal process of signing it correctly all over again. Okay, this is where a will gets really, really cool. A good map doesn't just show you the endpoint. It can give you specific directions for the journey. We're talking about clever if-then scenarios you can build right in. See, you can actually attach strings or conditions to a gift. It could be based on time, like your grandchild only gets their inheritance when they turn 25. Or it could be tied to an event. Like in this example, you could leave the house to someone, but only if they graduate from university. It gives you an incredible amount of control over how and when your legacy is passed on. And this is like the ultimate pro tip for your will. It's your plan B, and the legal term for it is substitution. Life's unpredictable. Substitution lets you name a backup. So in this case, the house goes to the son. But if something happens to him, the map already has a detour planned. It goes to the sister instead. It's a simple idea, but it's a brilliant way to avoid problems down the road. So, we've spent all this time talking about the map you draw. But what if you don't? What happens if there's no map at all? Well, the state has a default route all planned out for you, whether you like it or not. Well, there's a legal word for that. It's called intestacy. It just means dying without a valid will. And when that happens, you completely lose your say. Instead, the law, in this case, the Intestate Succession Act, takes over and hands out your assets based on a strict preset formula. And this is exactly how that formula works. The law follows this rigid hierarchy, no exceptions. First, it goes to your spouse and children. If you don't have any, it moves up to your parents. If they're not around, it starts looking for your closest living relatives. And the thing you have to understand is this. Without a will, your best friend, your favorite charity, maybe even a life partner you weren't married to, they will probably get nothing. The state's map just doesn't know about them. So when you boil it all down, it really comes to this one simple question. Your life's work, everything you've built, it's going to be passed on one way or another. The only choice you have is who gets to write the directions. Will it be you, or will it be a generic legal formula? The map will be drawn. The only question is, who's going to be holding the pen?